Good day, everyone. We are about to continue the part 3 on the topic 10 regarding discussion of drugs affecting the cardiovascular system. The next set and classification of drugs that we are about to discuss is related to the affectations on the cardiac blood vessels. And when it comes to the blood vessels, these are very important anatomical part of the heart because very obviously that this is where the blood flows, and as with the blood component of uh, the blood carrying its oxygen will benefit the tissues, specifically the myocardial cells, to fulfill its function on the continuous contraction of the heart. Now, when we talk about angina, this refers to chest pain. And chest pain usually occurs if there are problems on the supply of oxygen to the cardiac muscle tissues. So the classification of drug under the drugs affecting cardiovascular system is the anti-anginal drugs. And under the anti-anginal, there are what we call nitrates. Nitrates are considered also as vasodilators because its mechanism of action is it dilates the blood vessel. The dilation of the blood vessel is very significant to continuously flow uh, the blood to the cardiac circulation. And other than with the mechanism of action, which is in number two, to decrease preload and afterload, if we are considering the preload and afterload. The concept of the preload usually happens at the time of the diastole, wherein the heart relaxes to refill the blood to the atria going to the ventricle. While when we are doing when the heart function accordingly with the afterload, this usually occurs when there will be contraction of the ventricle to eventually push the blood. So to decrease the workload of the heart, the purpose of the nitrates is also to decrease and to significantly balance the diastolic and the systolic uh, functions. And the number three mechanism of action of the nitrates is referring to reduce myocardial oxygen consumption because at the time that the heart responds to sympathetic stimulation, and when the kidneys usually release the catecholamines, the adrenaline, this may usually increase the force of contraction of the heart to the extent that the forceful contraction of the myocardial muscles may lead also to the increase oxygen consumption, which may lead to increased oxygen demand. So the nitrates may also have the action to reduce myocardial oxygen consumption. And when it comes to the example under the nitrates are obviously those drugs that has on the generic name nitrates, such as isosorbide mononitrate. So usually isosorbide mononitrate, the most common brand is Isordil, and we have the isosorbide dinitrate, and the common brand is Imdur. So the drug other than the nitrates can be also in the preparation of nitroglycerin. So these are anti-anginals, and as what I have mentioned, these are also vasodilators. So when isosorbide mononitrate uh, will be administered to the client as for the Isordil, usually these are given during emergency and it is given sublingually. So we have already studied why it is given sublingually to promote efficient and fast absorption because under the tongue, it's highly vascular and it may promote fast absorption. So other than that, when this isosorbide mononitrate, such as the Isordil, can be only in preparation. Usually, it's 5 milligrams, and its maximum dose is only up to 15 milligrams. So, if we will consider the maximum dose, so as with the analysis on how many tablets could be given sublingually with the interval of 5 minutes, so we have only three tablets, 5 milligrams dosage, and interval of 5 minutes until relief of the uh, angina. So isosorbide dinitrate is used already as part of the supportive management, okay, supportive management to sustain and to maintain the dilation of the blood vessel. So with that, so that also with the nitroglycerin. Although there are also other preparations of the nitroglycerin, if you will encounter nitroglycerin patch, which is placed on the anterior chest wall, which eventually via topical action. So when it comes to the interactions, the nitrates that I have mentioned may not be simultaneously be given with calcium channel blockers. So those drugs that ends in dipine, because this may induce orthostatic hypotension. So we have discussed orthostatic hypotension, that if ever there will be a sudden change in the position, it may cause or induce a sudden drop of blood pressure. Nitrates may also not be administered or be taken with alcohol. Okay, because it may lead to severe hypotension. If we're talking about nitrates and calcium channel blockers, it will just cause hypotension through the changes in position or sudden change in position or positions that may induce the hypotension, while the nitrates and with the alcohol will already cause severe hypotension. And we all know that if it will cause severe hypotension, the sudden drop of the blood pressure may possibly lead to the continuous malfunctioning of the heart, and eventually this could be fatal. So other than we have heard there is some information that are indicated in the drug handbook that nitrates can't be uh, administered together with erectile dysfunction drugs. Okay, what are erectile dysfunction drugs that you have known? Viagra, nitrates plus the erectile dysfunction drugs, since it will cause or it will induce dilation of the blood vessel, and the erectile dysfunction drugs may also has the purpose of increasing the blood flow through this blood vessel. This may increase chances of hypotension. So when you are aware of when the nurse will administer nitrates to their patients, please consider the pharmacologic history or pharmacologic management history of the client, and at the same time, this may contribute as well to these interactions for you to be aware when is the time that if it's already this interaction leads already into adverse reactions. So that's why when it comes to nursing responsibilities, nitrates, it's advisable to avoid alcoholic beverages. Why? Because as what we have mentioned, it will cause severe hypotension. So as what I have mentioned, three tablets is the maximum dose with 5 milligrams each to patient, because beyond 15 minutes is not already considered as chest pain. Probably it may consider na po a problem with heart attack already. So headache is a common adverse effect. Okay, if the patient experiences headache, it may just be temporary, because nitrates as vasodilator may also have action to other blood vessels, not just only the cardiac arteries and veins. So specifically with the arteries. So usually the side effects of nitrates are headache, hypotension, and dizziness. Okay? So this must be temporary if we're considering side effects, because these are the expected physiologic response of the drug. However, if wrong headache had been observed, then this must consider a referral for any change in the dose, or probably may discontinue the drug. So next is, we're talking about the beta adrenergic blockers. If we talk about the beta adrenergic blockers, are we talking about beta 1 or are we talking about the beta 2? Okay. During the discussions that we have, beta 1, we have mentioned it is referring to the action of the bronchial smooth muscles, and the beta 2 is referring to the cardiac muscle. So when we talk about beta adrenergic blockers, beta 2 actually adrenergic blockers, the action of this drug is referring to the receptor of the beta 2, which is, if it is blocked, it may not cause specific forceful contraction to the heart. So that's why the mechanism of action of the beta blocker is to reduce myocardial oxygen demand, because it will slow the myocardial contraction. So as it slows the myocardial contraction, it may also have an effect to decrease also the heart rate and eventually decrease the force of myocardial contraction. So those drugs that are under the beta adrenergic blockers are those ending in olol, such as atenolol, metoprolol, propranolol. This is propranolol. So the indication is to treat angina pectoris. Okay. Usually, when individuals experience also palpitations, usually for those patients with thyroid problems and they experience palpitations, sa most of the effect rather of for example hyperthyroidism may increase the receptor stimulation, and thus it may increase the forceful contraction of the muscle of the heart. So thus may lead also to the increased heart rate and leading to tachycardia. Thus, its effect is already palpitation. So once it increases the forceful contraction of the heart, it may also increase oxygen consumption. So to decrease the oxygen demand, this drug, usually propranolol, are given to these patients. Actually, beta blockers are also used as anti-arrhythmic drugs. So usually beta blockers are not advisable to be taken with alcohol and with calcium channel blockers, because again, if you combine drugs, although it is a different classification of antihypertensive drugs, this may cause the possibility of its interaction. So that's why most of the doctors may prescribe the drugs to be taken either once a day, but the other drug can be taken, if it is once a day also, it must be taken in the afternoon. So the rationale is drug interaction, because if somehow it will be given simultaneously, may lead to a problem with hypotensive effects, such as if, for example, uh, the beta blockers, the olols will be given simultaneously with calcium channel blockers. So this may cause a problem with hypotensive effects. So usually for the nursing responsibilities, vital signs is one of the consideration, wherein if it is less than 50 beats per minute, you withhold the drug. Why? Because we all know for a fact that beta blockers slows heart rate, and if it continuously decreases the heart rate, which is, we all know that the normal heart rate is up to 60 and it goes below 50, then you must withhold the drug, because it may induce further bradycardic episodes, and the bradycardic episodes may lead to possible cardiac arrest. So you need also, for ano naman, for clients who are diabetic, you need to consider hypoglycemic shock, because eventually when clients are taking beta blockers, it may cause the possibility of the sudden drop of blood sugar. So while it causes the effect in the blood sugar, it causes also the effect with the blood pressure. So the sudden drop of blood sugar and the blood pressure may eventually lead to a possible cardiac arrest. Now, when it comes to the nursing responsibilities of the beta adrenergic blockers, so that's why One of the consideration for diabetic patients who are taking such beta blocker is to monitor hypoglycemic shock. So what are the signs of hypoglycemic shock? So we have the sweating, the hunger, the fatigue, which is eventually because of the decreased blood sugar. These are the metabolic response of the body. Because if we are considering hypoglycemic shock, it already affects the circulation. And you need to observe also the tolerance. So withdraw the drug slowly if if chances that it exacerbate or it contributes to a problem with the thyroid. So that's in such as the hyperthyroidism and the thyroid storm. Thyroid storm is already a complication of hyperthyroidism. So we have already mentioned also as part of the nursing responsibilities about orthostatic hypotension. So that's why every time that the client will receive the drugs, the beta blockers, the nitrates, and it may cause the possibility of the sudden change position may cause orthostatic hypotension. So better prioritize their safety. After taking the drug, they must have the bed rest or rather complete bed rest, then may engage again to any physical activities. Now, let's talk about anti-lipemics. If we consider anti-lipemics from the term itself, lipid, okay, lipid. So there is a problem with the cholesterol. Eventually, when we talk about lipid, usually cholesterol, since it is insoluble in the plasma, the the cholesterol are encapsulated with phospholipids. So the phospholipids are the one being carried through the plasma upon the circulation. So that's why if we say low density lipoprotein, low dense, it may cause the possibility that this LDL or low density lipoprotein are the ones that may dislodge to the blood vessel. Dislodge meaning it may attach to the blood vessel wall. And the other one is the high density lipoprotein, so it continues to flow with the blood, since we have mentioned that cholesterol is insoluble. So whenever they say that LDL is a bad cholesterol, then through the scientific explanation, it could be true because low density lipoprotein is the one that could be at risk to dislodge in the blood vessel. And once this cholesterol or once this LDL or cholesterol will continuously dislodge in the blood vessel. So obviously it may cause obstruction. And this obstruction may delay the blood flow, and eventually from the blood flow, the blood carries the oxygen, so it may deprive oxygen supply to our myocardial tissues and cells. So that's why it's very important that to have the regulation of the cholesterol. And we all know that uh, the liver, okay, the liver has also a major function that regulates the cholesterol. But sometimes, since the liver is the one that is significant on the regulation also of the cholesterol, if the liver may not be capable of doing it, then that's the time that it may cause the possibility that it may increase the circulating uh, cholesterol that could be harmful to our smaller blood vessels, which are arterioles and venules. Now, with the antilipemics, one of the examples for the antilipemics are the bile acid sequestrants. So for the bile acid sequestrants, the mechanism of action, that's why it bind bile acids. Bile are secreted by the what? By the liver. So the bile acids in GI tract to form an insoluble complex. So it considers the insoluble complex because we all know that we have mentioned that cholesterol is insoluble and it could be carried throughout the circulation. So that's why the purpose of the bile acid sequestrians is to help the liver specifically bind the bile acids to increase the clearance of the cholesterol. Okay, if it is dislodged, or probably if it may minimize the dislodgement in the blood vessel. So since it identified that the low density lipoprotein is the one that may possibly dislodge in the blood vessel, so the bile acid sequestrians is responsible to lower the serum LDLs. So when it comes to these examples, the example is the cholecystramine, okay, tyramine, okay, styramine and the cholesterol. Okay, these are the two common examples of bile acid sequestriants. So that's why when it comes to problem with the biliary tract affecting the liver, okay, affecting the portal circulation or the portal blood vessels, and this is caused about by the cholesterol, then this is the usual treatment. Okay. Now, when it comes to the interaction, it is advisable not to give the bile acid sequestriants with digoxin and with hydrocortisone. And zone is considered as corticosteroids because it may interfere or withhold absorption. And these bile acid sequestriants also may not be given with orally administered drugs and vitamins, because we all know that the liver secreted substances which is essential for the pharmacologic response of detoxification and distribution as well of the drug. So that's why it may counteract its effectiveness. Now, when we talk about bile acid sequestriants, it is better to take 1 hour before meal or 4 to 6 hours after taking another drug. So it's either every 6 hours interval if it is if it is prescribed. So again, the purpose of having or taking the drug 1 hour before is for purposes of efficient and effective absorption. So the usual diagnostic examination that may need to support if it improved the condition, supporting the use of the bile acid sequestriants, is to check the patient's serum cholesterol, triglyceride, excuse me, and the liver function. This usually is advisable for the first 6 months of therapy. And part of the suggestion is to use laxatives, stool softener if it is not contraindicated, so that to prevent constipation, because usually bile acid sequestriants, when it is used, one of its side effect is constipation. So for non-pharmacological management is to increase fluid and fiber to prevent constipation, but for pharmacologic management, if ever constipation may not be avoided, it can use laxative or stool softener. So another is we have the pyric acid derivatives. For pyric acid derivatives, the mechanism of action is to decrease hepatic synthesis. So again, it still involved the liver. So if it talks about related to the cholesterol, such as the LDL, HDL, triglycerides, it always involved the liver. So usually, most of the drug that is anti-lipemics is to really break down and to lower the low density lipoprotein. And usually the component of the pyric acid derivatives is niacin. So to counteract with the LDL, the HDL will be increased. Okay, will be increased, because to increase the HDL, it counteract the harmful effects of the LDL. So it reduces the LDL, which is the phospholipid LDL. Now, those drugs that are pyric acid derivatives are those drugs that ends in pybrate. Okay? And another is, as what I have mentioned, niacin and the gemfibrozil. So these are the pyric acid derivatives. So if we say adjunct therapy is a drug that supports the problem with hyperlipidemia, hypercholesterolemia, hypertriglyceridemia. So this is the same as hyperlipidemia. So it is used as adjunct therapy. So those drugs are the fibrate, fibrozil, and niacin. So usually, when it comes to fibric acid derivatives, it is not advisable to take the fibric acid with anticoagulant because instead of the result is to really lower down the low density lipoprotein, and since the liver also has the regulation of the coagulating factors, okay, coagulating factors, this may increase instead of the fibric acid derivatives, the anticoagulant will overpower its effect over the fibric acid. So other than that, we have also fibric acid derivatives may not be given HMG-CoA reductase. HMG-CoA reductase is also used as for anti-hyperlipidemia because this may cause the possibility of a problem with what? A problem with muscle. Okay, a problem with the muscle, which eventually may affect the heart. Okay, so myopathy. Uh, Clot fibrate, so fibrate or gemifibrocil plus sulfonyl lureas, it is not advisable to it's not advisable to have it combined as they can administer to the patient because it may cause the hypoglycemic effects. If you have noticed, interactions are very important to know as nurses because it gives you the idea that what are the drugs to be given at the same time, and what are those drugs that must not be given on the same pace because it may lead to a problem with the interaction of the drugs. Now, what are the nursing responsibilities? So the nursing responsibilities is to take the drug with evening meal. Okay, why? Because usually cholesterol rises when the body is at rest, and that usually happens at bedtime. And with the response of the body on the metabolism, usually hypometabolic response may also contribute to the problem with the synthesis of cholesterol. So that could be advisable that if it is once a day, it must be given at the bedtime. So again, instruct the patient to follow dietary recommendations. So very obvious that if it is problem with the low density lipoprotein, uh, we usually take into consideration to have dietary management to avoid fatty foods or foods that are high in cholesterol. Okay? So the next drug on the anti-lipemics is the HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors. If you will notice, the anti-lipemics may have the same actions. It's again lowers LDL. Very common. Lowers low density lipoprotein. That's why if you will notice that I had mentioned a while ago, the low density lipoprotein had been considered as a bad cholesterol, as they say, because these are the chances. The LDL are the risk phospholipids that may cause the dislodgement and obstruction to blood vessels. So very common to lower serum cholesterol and LDL levels. And usually the why it's HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor, so it inhibit the HMG-CoA. So yung HMG-CoA is blocked so that to prevent cholesterol synthesis. Okay? Because the cholesterol itself may cause the possibility that may lead to the uncontrolled LDL synthesis. So what are those drugs? So those drugs, very obviously, the NG-CoA reductase, the anti-hyperlipidemic drugs are those drugs ending in bastatin. Okay. So rosuvastatin, simvastatin, atorvastatin, fluvastatin, empravastatin, the HMG-CoA reductase. So it's a treatment, obviously, for the hyperlipidemia, hypercholesterolemia, and hypertriglyceridemia. So just the same with the fibric acid derivatives, it may not be given with these drugs, the statins plus the fibric acid derivatives, because again, it may contribute to the problem with the muscle disorders. And vastatin and simvastatin may not be given with warfarin because increased effect of warfarin. Kaya if you will notice in the fibric acid derivatives, it may not be given with anticoagulants, and those drugs are ending in rinse because usually it overpower the increased effect of warfarin and may affect the efficacy of the other drug, which is the hyperlipidemic drugs. So at least as what we have mentioned for HMG CoA reductase inhibitors, these drugs must be given or can be advisable, or it's more advisable to be given what? To be given at bedtime, and usually administer without food because for the efficient absorption. And since most of the drugs from the bile sequestrians to fibric acid derivatives, from HMG CoA reductase inhibitors, since the liver is the one that has been involved when it comes to the cholesterol synthesis. So monitor liver function test. Okay, monitor liver function test. And one of the very common also na that could be part of the health education to this patient is to avoid, restrict actually, taking alcohol, because alcohol is being synthesized by the liver. So anything that has been combined drug with alcohol may cause the possibility of the forceful workload of the liver. So I think that ends up the drugs affecting the cardiovascular system. I hope you have learned from this asynchronous session. So we have the part 1, the part 2, and this is now the part 3. So thank you very much. The next video that I will be posting for the asynchronous session are drugs affecting the respiratory system. So if you have any questions pertaining to the drugs affecting the cardiovascular system, you may address it to me, and I may respond to you accordingly with your questions. So thank you very much, and God bless.